College football is freaking back, baby, tomorrow. I'm so excited to turn on our game of the week tomorrow at 12 p.m. Isaac, why don't you tell the folks, what is our game of the week?
Mason, our game of the week is Florida State and Georgia Tech in Dublin, Ireland at 12 p.m. on Saturday in the Aer Lingus Bowl.
Yes, this is the third year of the Aer Lingus Bowl. We saw Nebraska versus Northwestern in a Big Ten showdown 2 years ago. Last year, we saw Navy versus Notre Dame, where the Irish, who were spurred on by the literal Irish, beat down on Navy. And now we get a Week 0 ACC showdown in the 10th-ranked Florida State Seminoles versus the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. And I do want to turn your guys' attention to a couple years ago. Do you guys remember? And it's more than a couple years ago now, but it was when Jimbo Fisher was at Florida State and Georgia Tech blocked their field goal and ran it back for a touchdown, keeping them either out of the ACC championship or out of the playoffs, I believe. But what a game that was. And do we see a repeat here? Because we haven't seen anything like this in years. So we're doing something new this year. We got the TBD model, which is going to tell us, basically it sims 5 games between the two teams that we're picking from and tells us basically what the spread will be. So our TBD model, and this is, and we don't always have to agree with the model, but the model says that Georgia Tech will be favored to win this game 3 out of 5 times by 10 points on average. The ESPN FPI says FSU 80%, and the spread is FSU by 11. Our model and the spread are definitely literally on opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but with Joey being our resident ACC guy, I'm going to let him pick first.
Yeah, so Georgia Tech definitely has some promise on the offensive side, and defensively the past couple years and big games they've definitely shown up. But when it comes down to this Florida State team, I don't think that they can compete. I think Florida State has a great offense, even though, DJ Ukelele, who essentially pretty much was cut from Clemson, is now Florida State's starting quarterback. Ironic, right? Florida State, they've had a decent defense last season, but they still weren't the greatest. They weren't the best. They came close in a lot of games that shouldn't have been close. But I gotta give it to the Noles in this game. I think it's just too far gone. I think it's too hard to not pick the Florida State Seminoles.
So this one's exciting for me because one of my good friends at work he's from Tallahassee, massive Noles fan. Big time Florida State guy. Like, he's got a shrine in his office, and he actually flew to Ireland today, Monday, to spend the week out there, and he's going to the game. So I'm excited about this one. I actually forgot until now that DJ is the quarterback for Florida State this year. Florida State's defense, I think, is really strong. They're coming off a year where they lost several draft picks, obviously, because I think Gerard Verse went pro, and they had a few other guys, and they've got a couple of receivers, Keon Coleman and not Jordan Travis, but I can't remember the other guy's name. They're a really, really tall receiver. A couple of their guys obviously went pro, but I still think they have a good wide receiver room. That's why I'm going to have to give this one to Florida State. I think that they're going to be too strong for Georgia Tech. I don't think they cover. I like Florida State by 10. I think it'll be a good game, but I do think they come out ahead, but they do not cover the spread, in my opinion.
So this year we have DJ Ukelele, like Joey said, at quarterback at Florida State, which was obviously a surprising move. And I'm really interested to see how they develop him at Florida State because, at Clemson, it really wasn't the right fit in the offensive scheme. And I think ever since Georgia, he had a really hard time recovering. Oregon State, he looked better. At Florida State, is this the year that he really comes into his own and becomes a really good quarterback? Or is it another fluke year like we had kind of the last 2 years? I think those are some really good questions. I think that, while Florida State did retain a really good wide receiver room, are they going to be as good as last year? When you look at Georgia Tech, obviously you have Brent Key, who's rebuilding this program, this historic program, and is doing a pretty good job. I mean, went into the portal and got Haynes King from A&M a couple years ago. He had a really, really good season last year, played really well against Georgia. And I'm just not sure what we're going to see out of Florida State, which is why I'm picking Georgia Tech to win the Aer Lingus Bowl this year. I'm not really big on Florida State right now, and people might call me crazy, and I'm not saying our model is correct. I mean, but I think that Georgia Tech will win, but if they don't win, I'm still going to pick them against the spread. I still don't think that Florida State's going to win by 10. I think it's actually going to be a closer game. Both teams have to go on the road, and really what this Aer Lingus Bowl is really cool about, and I know they're going to have a couple days out there to get acclimated to the time change and, get 6 hours or 7 hours, however far ahead they are, to get in this game. It's 5 hours ahead. So get 5 hours ahead and get acclimated to that, and then do some practices over there in that environment, and then play a football game. But this is going to go down really. This is really going to come down to who can travel really well that far. So, yeah, I'm not really sure about what's actually going to happen, but I am going to pick Georgia Tech in this game.